All right. So we are on week 7, which is amazing to me. I can't believe we're here already. So we've got this month, 2 more months, and then we will start our background, our finishing. And a little Bernina birdie told me that finishing kits won't be mailed out until August, the next month. So we will let you know when they're here and ready to be picked up if you're picking them up, and pop them in the mail if that's what you've chosen. But this is probably a great time in January. I was like, you don't need to worry about what size you're making. You don't need to worry about what background fabric you're going to use. But now might be the time to start thinking about that. So because I've already made the queen size, I am going to be making the lap size, which is actually not square. It is a hexagon, which I'm super actually excited about. So just think about what size you're going to be making. And if you're not going to be using the fabric that comes with the kit, start thinking about what fabric you'd like to use so that you have that in your mind, because we're going to be cutting sooner rather than later on that fabric. Okay? All right. So this month we are using triangles, and then we are also using these half triangles. And you have a right and a left, which can be very confusing. But I would say that make sure you're looking at your instructions and looking at which direction those pieces are going. Because to me, that was very, very, very helpful, is to look at those directions and make sure that your pieces are going in the right direction. Okay? Okay. So as always, I've laid mine out. My triangles are A. I've got B, C, D, and E. And even though we have 5 fabrics for each block, which seems like a lot of fabrics going on, to me, this block goes together faster than any of the other ones we've done so far. So I have my pairs. So I've got B and C and D and E here together. And I'm just simply going to sew them long edges together like this. Okay? So you're going to end up with 6 pairs of each group. Make sense to everybody?
Yes.
All right. So again, I've got my Orfil thread. I've got my Microtex 70 needle that I brought with me and I put into the machine. I'm sewing on the big lady today, the Bernina 790 Plus, which is awesome. I've got my 37D foot on here and my single stitch plate, which I know I'm a princess, but it makes me happy to sew with. And the ladies here at Bernina World allow me to be that way. So I appreciate that. So really, I'm just going to go ahead and sew all of these sets together. And I just like to continually sew them. I'm just going to sew them all at once and then cut them apart and press. So if you're sewing, let's sew. If you're just watching, Judith, you can just organize yourself, look around, enjoy the view.
I want to line up where the flat edge of the triangles are in the correct position.
Yes, yes. Well, there you go. Perfect. And you can put some pins in there as well. I am not going to pin these as I sew because everything lines up beautifully and there really isn't a reason to. But if you are a pinner, as I say, do what makes you happy and go ahead and pin those pieces together. So we've got the blunt edge here at the top of our piece and our angle right at the bottom. And so it's easy to line everything up and make sure it looks good. There's no bias edge that we're sewing on, so that's also a plus. Somebody knew I was a fast sewer, and so they turned the speed down on this, which is probably smart. And I'm sewing a scant 1/4 inch, so right inside my 1/4 inch line on my machine.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be important to, to find out on your own machine where that line is. And as always, hopefully, if you're able to, you've been sewing all of your blocks on the same machine so that your 1/4 inch is nice and consistent. And I have my needle stopped down so that all I have to do is butt the end of the next piece right up against that needle, and I know that I'm ready to go. And I have my pieces just in my lap, one on each leg, so I can just pick them up and go. You're sewing on a nice big machine that has a big throat and a flat bed like this. You could lay your pieces right on the machine bed, but this is kind of my go-to setup here, so I'm going to stick with it. And you may have noticed that this month we switched to sewing with these purpley pinks and then the greens, and those will be for this month and the next 2 months, those will be our colors. If you like a stiletto, this would be a great block. Use your stiletto just to get those pieces going under the machine nice and smoothly. I don't always do well with an extra gadget, so I just get my hands right in there. And I don't think I've sewn this slowly ever in my life, but you know, it's actually good, meditative. Maybe my seams will be even straighter.
Yeah, I find that to be true.
Well, I'm short a couple pieces, ladies, but we're just gonna move on. Okay. Well, I've got most of my done. How about that? This is what happens when you cut your months in advance and you don't make yourself a note that maybe you were short on something. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take these over to my little ironing station. Here we go. And I'm going to press these open. I know, I've been pressing open all year. This is nothing new. But I like to give that okay, so we're going to end up with 6 of the rainbow hexes and the mineral, and then you'll also end up with 6 of the tent stripe and the wildflower. Okay? That's our goal.
Yeah, I keep forgetting which ones are A, B, C, D, and E. And I took a little stickum thing and I just wrote the letter on it and wrote it on top of the pile so I could keep it straight in my head.
Oh, that's perfect. You know, whatever trick works for you. I think it's
I always have a helper. So
yeah.
I need to be sure I'm doing it correctly.
That's right. That's right. Is it the 4-legged helper?
Actually, my helper has left.
Oh.
I don't know where she went. It is her afternoon nap time, so she's
okay. Well, I understand. I do understand.
Yeah, I got really concerned that I would cut the stripes in the right direction. So every time I lined the thing up, I had to make sure I was lining it up correctly.
Yes. Yes. Yep. It's good to remember to keep our stripes going horizontally on these blocks.
I like that big felted ironing pad. That's beautiful.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah.
I feel very spoiled ironing on it, believe me. It is lovely.
I couldn't put it any place that wouldn't get cat fur on it, so that's a little bit too big for my maintenance.
Yes, I don't have a space cleared off enough in my sewing room that I could put it, but it is lovely. Okay, so the next step that we're actually going to turn these triangles into diamonds. So because of the way that we sew them together, they're opposites. So we're going to get this really cool diamond shape. So you're going to make 3 of each. 3 of our hexie and 3 of our tent stripe. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm just matching, because we've pressed those seams open, I'm just matching those seams. I'm not worrying about the ends at this point. And I am going to throw a single pin down there. When I get to my machine, I'm going to line everything else up. And, you know, if these are laying nicely together, you should be able to feel that through your block. It should be even and no extra lumps or bumps right where everything lines up. You can also stick a pin right down the center of your top block. Just sticking it right in that seam.
Mm-hmm.
Pin has said no thank you so much today. There we go. And then stick it right into the same spot on your bottom one. And once your pin is standing up nice and straight, you know that you've got everything lined up. You can leave that pin in there, come in and throw one in there, and now you're good. Okay? Everybody has their own technique about lining things up, but that's kind of a foolproof method and something we'll be using when we go to sew our bigger units together. So I didn't pin anywhere but that center because I'm just going to use my finger to make sure that the tips of that triangle are lined up. I'm going to wait until my needle drops into that space. Pull out my pin and then keep going. We're not sewing over our pin, but if you go ahead and let your needle just drop right into that seam allowance, it's going to hold it nice and sturdy while you take that pin out. Well, and because this is not my machine, it's not. So. You'll be making 6 total units of these diamonds.
Yeah, I noticed you're lining up the bottom corner after you get to the center.
Yep. So I'm not worrying about that corner really until I get there, because visually the most important thing, especially in these particular units, is that center intersection is as crisp as we can possibly get it, remembering that none of us are perfect.
Yeah,
but that's our goal, to have that center intersection looking as nice as possible.
and since we're on a bias also, that
Yes.
that actually became, you know, I sewed to that center like you did.
Yep.
Just at the last corner.
Yep.
Because sometimes I go in there and boy, there's a big difference between the 2 corners. And
right.
That helped me keep it all straight.
Yep. And, you know, like this one's a little bit, my top one's a little bit longer, and I'm just going to, you know, encourage it to meet up with its friend on the bottom. And this is set when I use the heel command to cut and do all sorts of stuff that I don't need to do. There we go. Okay, so you should have 3 of these. Aren't cut it. 3 of your rainbow hexie and 3 of your tent stripe, and we're just going to go to the pressing mat and press those seams open and nice and flat. Okay. And I like to give everything, another good press. Flat as we can get them. You'll see on this one, the intersection of the two units of triangles we're going to be making before we sew the whole thing together. It's kind of bulky. I don't know if you felt that way, Judith, but I certainly felt like it was very bulky.
Your sound is breaking up, and you asked me a question.
Yeah, did you find when you were sewing the center seam for the two triangle units that it felt kind of bulky?
Well, I ended up having to put a pin in the seam. Yeah. Opening and matching them up that way because I wasn't quite sure I was feeling them lining up.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of fabric at that one intersection. We're going to get that.
Having done that, my intersections look pretty good.
Yeah.
Let me check this one. Nope, they're all pretty good. I didn't have to unsew anything, which is a big thing.
That's always a win if we don't have to unsew, right?
Right. And keeping it straight about the which letter is sewing to the other letter. That was always tripping me up, especially if I turned away to do something and then came back. I had to, so lettering them really helped a whole lot.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I was going back and forth with this thing, trying to see which was A and C. And
yeah, yeah. Alrighty, I'm feeling pretty good about where all my units are. I've got good intersections. So I'm just going to take one of the other side here. And we are going to be adding two triangles on each side of the bottom. Okay?
Yep.
And so the blunt end of your triangle should be right at the top. So that when you that over right there,
right,
and you should have a nice little overhang on the bottom here. Okay, just because we can, we'll put a pin in there just, and I'm going to do the same thing on this block.
That is the quietest 790 I've ever heard.
Right? No. I think it probably has just had maybe a spa day and been oiled and cleaned because it may also be that the speed isn't up as high. I think that helps.
Yeah. Well, the microphone might not be near it either.
Yeah. It's quiet though. It's not as quiet as I think I was using the 590 last time. It's not as quiet as that. That is like a whisper dream, but it is nice and quiet. They're triangles, and then we're going to come and just do the same thing on this side. It's just going to be reversed, where we're going to match up the blunt end right on this edge, and then actually the triangle should meet up with that dog ear right underneath it.
Yeah.
That's your guide. Everything is lined up nicely. You do have a bias edge here, so A, be careful, but B, to, gently encourage your fabric to line up and be gentle. We can. Okay. I'm sewing in from the opposite end, from the point up to the blunt end this time.
Okay.
all of those other sections block that has this many seams, that all those seams are still nice and flat and pressed. Okay. So we're going to use our D&E, so our tent stripe and our wildflower. And we are going to be adding the triangle. You're going to make 2 of these. I'm only making 1 because remember I cut my fabric wrong and I only have 1, so I'm just making 1. But you are going to be making 2. So I'm going to let those, and I'm going to put a pin at that top because when I get to my machine, I'm encouraged this triangle point, my top triangle, and that bottom dog ear line up with each other. Okay. Part of the beauty of working with these bias edges is that you can encourage them gently to line up if they're not doing it on their own. Here we are. Then we're going to take one of our hexagon minerals, and we're going to attach it on the other side. Whoa. Just like that.
We're having a thunderstorm here.
Oh, gee. Wonder if it's coming our way.
I saw it getting cloudier, but I just heard the thunder. So.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, you're at the point that I had the questions about.
What you got?
When you do that other triangle that's going to go on that side that you were pointing to, that's 6 pieces of fabric having to come to a point.
Yeah, so we add the top. I
had to take that apart several times to get it to line up.
Yes. This is a super bulky point. Right here, we're going to be laying this triangle on top.
I was going to ask another question.
Sure.
The maybe it's because I'm looking at it differently. On that long piece, should the stripes be on both sides?
What do you mean?
Did I do it wrong?
What do you mean the stripes be on both sides? We should have opposites on this.
The one that has the stripes? Shouldn't there be the other one on the other side?
No, they're opposites. You have one of each on either side. Over here?
Okay. I had it set up differently, but let me.
Well, so you're going to have one that looks like this.
I see. All right. For the green one, they were the same, but for the purple one, they are opposite. Oh, good thing I came today because I put this together wrong.
No, so the green one is put together the same way. You should have, hold on, let me put mine off and look here. This is that same long piece right here, and you should have opposites on there. And you're going to have one triangle that has polka dots matching, and then you're going to have another triangle where these 2 are opposite, and then stripe is up here.
Okay.
So you'd have one triangle like this. This is our long piece.
Right.
And then you'd have one triangle like this. So they should not be the same on either side of that triangle. They should be opposite.
And that's right. Okay, that's how I have that.
Yep.
In my green one.
And the purple is the same way.
Yeah. With that point where you're taking the long piece, matching it with the other triangle, there's 6 different fabrics coming there. I had the hardest time getting that to line up.
So the one thing I will say, and I almost brought my hammer because I've been known to hammer a seam. Literally take your hammer, put your fabric down on a wood surface or outside and just hammer it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take my pin and go right through where that point is. So it should come out right at the tip of that triangle.
Yeah. The operative word is should.
Yep, there we go. So there's my pin coming right out of there. And
I got that somewhat lined up, but when I came starting with thread, getting close to it, I even put pins on either side of the seam where it should keep it aligned. And I still do not have perfect, it's still not perfect.
Mine's not perfect for sure, and I probably could hammer mine and help it out. The other thing is that this intersection where you could start from the center and sew out,
Yeah.
and then start from the center and sew out.
I think I actually did that. Let me take a look at my seams here.
It may also
Yeah, I actually ended up doing that, but it's still
a little wonky.
Yeah.
Well, once it's quilted, will you be able to see it?
I didn't hammer it very well. I know I kept pushing hard on it, and I did my roller thing. I didn't think to get the hammer out. But yeah, that was the hardest seam.
And I would also say is to sew with your bulkier seams. So I'm going to sew with these on top.
Yeah.
Instead of this, because this is just flat until you get to that intersection. So your feed dogs are going to pull this nice and smoothly. And this top is really where you want to make sure. And then you can also see that intersection right there, and make sure that your needle is going just a thread's distance to the right of it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe I did some of that, but that was the only place where I had to unsew more than once to get that thing to line up. And
it's definitely a bear of an intersection. I mean, you are correct. That is not an easy intersection at all. It's a lot of fabric coming together.
Yeah, when you put the two bigger triangles together, that one was really easy.
Right. Yeah.
I came up with the other one.
Yes. After doing this, that other intersection goes by nicely.
Yeah. Yeah.
How we did. It's not perfection, but for me, it's perfect enough that I do not plan on unstitching this.
Yeah, I came to a point where mine was perfect enough.
Yeah.
There's always one of them that wants to be a little bit off, and I think only in one seam do I have that. But if you can't see it on a galloping horse, then you can't see it.
It's a lot of seaming coming together. That's unavoidable.
Yeah. The other thing is I found this strip thing that you can rest the fabric on while you press it. Yeah. That helped a lot getting that seam flatter.
So it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But it's perfect enough for me.
Yeah. Like I said, the strip stick really helped.
There you go.
Get that flat too. Also.
So your next piece would have your long piece here, and then you're going to put your D triangle on top. Okay, so you're going to end up with two triangles, and then they are going to get sewn together. They're going to get sewn together. They're going to get sewn together right at this seam. So like Judith was saying, there's much less bulk. You do have this intersection that you're matching up and this intersection. But that's less fabric than these centers that you just arm wrestled.
Yep.
Okay. So there's our green one. And this will be our pink one. Okay.
Right.
And that's month 7. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It really is. That we have made it. We made it. Month 7. Done. Woo! Okay, so we have 2 more months. 8 and 9. I'll be here, same bat time, same bat station. And next month, I'm going to remind you again, what size are you making? You have to decide. So it says hi.
I was going, I want to put it on my full-size bed. Maybe a queen size.
Yes. The queen size is the one that's behind me. That's the sample size. That's what all Jaybirds samples and all her original directions are for. And I have a queen size bed, and it not only fits it, but has a nice overhang.
Okay.
Can I chime in on that? I just completed the king size version for a wedding, and I posted it on the Facebook group, and that quilt was too big. I mean, we barely got it on the long arm. We did not even have the proper, we were almost going to have to cut it a little bit to make room for the long arm to be able to grab it and do all the thing the long arm does. But that is massive, and it drapes on my king size bed. It's very, very large, but it's gorgeous. But I think even the queen is a little oversized.
Yeah.
So they're oversized as it is. So the king is an oversized king. The queen is a bit on the oversized queen. So
Well, I don't think she gives an option for the full bed. It's the wall hanging and the lap quilt, and then the queen, then the king.
yeah.
Right. Yes. And the lap is like 78 by 96. So you're still going to get the length. It's just the width that's going to be smaller.
It won't go over.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've made a couple of quilts and they just don't quite fit. So I was looking at doing the queen on this, and I already bought that background.
Perfect.
It's that white
Yeah.
colored background. Not my first choice, but I couldn't find one on the day I was looking. So yeah, I'm all set to start looking at that. Buy
Yeah.
some.
So we'll talk more about that, friends, next month. And then month 9, I'm really going to encourage you to have that decided and ready to cut, because the background is a lot of cutting. I don't mean to scare anyone, but I do want to be honest. It's a lot of cutting, and we're going to cut together, but it's a lot of cutting. So
of course, the octagon one or the hexagon one, Shay.
Uh-huh.
When you said that, I had to go and look, and I said, "Ooh, I can just do that." But
yes, you could. Yes, but it's only because I've already made one of the queen size. If I had not already finished this queen one, I would be doing the queen size. But since I already have one, I decided the next one did not need to be quite as gigantic. But we have 2 more months of blocks, and then we will start our background. And before you know it, it's going to be done and on your bed, which is amazing. So always lovely to see you, Judith and Ursula. Thank you for joining me today in our new space, which is amazing. And I will see you next month.
okay,
All right. Bye.
bye.